Hi, and thanks for tuning into MAR Talks. My name is Carrie Cavers, and I'm the founder of Moms Against Racism Canada. I am grateful to be able to not only live and raise my children on the traditional unceded territories of the Lekwungen peoples, now known as Victoria, BC, where I am, but I'm also super grateful to be able to do this work here. And this month, in honor of International Women's Day and the UN International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, our theme is revolutionary mothering. And so our theme is inspired by the book with the same name, Revolutionary Mothering, Love on the Front Lines, a co-edited anthology by Mai'a Williams, Alexis, Pauline, Gumbs, and China Martens. And it explores the idea that mothering not only means taking care of one's own children, but it also means building community and ensuring survival for the future generation. And we see that as a generation that will stand on the shoulders of those who paved the way before them and who will continue the resistance against oppression. And it's this radical act of caretaking and supporting life that is fundamental to raising kids who will become equity champions and builders of revolutionary communities of love, diversity, and inclusion. So to kick off our month of interviews with revolutionary mothers, we thought it was fitting to start with some of our very own MAR moms. So today we're talking with Tracy Humphreys, founder and chair of BCEdAccess Society. Tracy is an autistic mom with parenting three amazing children with disabilities. She is an entrepreneur in her business life, and she's also been an active volunteer in BC schools for over 20 years and was awarded the 2019 Victoria Community Leadership Award in lifelong learning for her work as the founder and chair of the BCEdAccess Society. And in this society, advocating for equitable access to education for children and youth with disabilities. So hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Hi, Carrie. It's great. I really appreciate being asked. And that book sounds amazing. Sounds like something that I'm going to be picking up this month and reading.
Fantastic. So for this interview series that we're doing, we're asking each of our revolutionary motherers the same three questions. So question number one, what does revolutionary mothering mean to you?
Yeah, it's a big question. So I wanted to start first by saying that I'm joining actually from the same place as you are, Carrie, probably not too far away, I'm guessing, on the stolen lands of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, the Esquimalt and Songhees nations in particular, as I understand it, in this area have, historical significance and continued living on these lands where I live, work, play, and raise my own children as well. And, I'm grateful every day to be here. It's one of the most beautiful, amazing places in the world. And that is due to the land stewardship of people who've been here since time immemorial. So, I always have appreciation and gratitude, and especially more recently as I've come to understand more about that land stewardship. Anyway, that said, revolutionary mothering is kind of about that, right? About learning, about things that you didn't know before. But for me, what it means to me is I think it makes me think about parenting with intention. So I had my first child when I was 24 years old. I'm 51 now, to give you some context. And my intentions were around rejecting gendered clothing, toys, books, and more. So that sort of, raising a child in a gendered construct, came very early to me. And then my second, I was 32, and a disability diagnosis that came early really threw me off. And I followed a lot of the traditional guidance that I got around that. But what I did reject was the idea that this diagnosis was something to grieve and the lowered expectations that everyone seemed to have. And then by my third child's birth, I was 36. and I rejected everything the parenting books had ever told me, pretty much. I breastfed until they were 4. We co-slept, like everything, I did everything differently. And I mean, it was just so much more peaceful and harmonious, I guess, is how it felt. And now my kids, they're teens, and I have an adult as well. And I continue to reject old ideas that my parents taught me or that I've learned through my life in other places. And I pass those renewed values on to my children through conversations and through my own example in the way that I change, the way that I speak about things and the way that I engage in the world. And, a big thing, that I've always felt is kind of revolutionary, but seems to be becoming more consistent with the way most people parent is I admit when I'm wrong, or when I have been wrong, and I have learned that it's wrong. I admit this to my children. I apologize and I work to do better. I show my humanity to my kids, and I show them that it's okay to, to not be okay all the time.
And that is such a revolutionary act, I think, with the generation that we're in and that our parents were in, and what parenting meant and what it meant to be a parent and how to parent. That, and I like how you say that you were rejecting that. It is just, it's very revolutionary.
Yeah, and I mean, you can look at my kids and see them rejecting things that I've taught them too. And to me, that is the most meaningful thing, and it gives me joy and hope,
Totally.
Yeah.
For the future. So yes. Sometimes it's a little hard when you're in it, but
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So then, and you touched on it a little bit in your answer before, but what ways do you practice the revolutionary mothering? And this could be within your family or even within your society.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about my family, I guess I treat all my kids as individuals. This shouldn't be revolutionary, right? I don't think, but so much of parenting advice suggests treating all your children the same, equally, but that's not equitable. And I mean, equity is kind of a focus of my work and my life. So I think about equity a lot. They all have different interests. We all relate to each other on different levels. We all have different identities, so we have some identities in common. We all share at least one of the same disabilities, for example. One of my kids and I both identify on the LGBTQ kind of spectrum. And then for some, very different identities. And I had a recent conversation. I'm just going to give you some examples with my 3 kids. So I had a recent conversation about autistic representation in film and seclusion and restraint, because that's, current topic, and because their area of strong interest is in film. And so then in the summer, my youngest came to me because they were playing Roblox, and they were in a game dedicated to Black Lives Matter. And a bunch of players were ganging up on a young Black player, making racist comments and all kinds of, terrible things. And my kid wanted me to help them to present facts and information and provide support to this player. And we spent over 2 hours doing this. I mean, it was a long, focused activity with both of us, researching and learning, and just kind of learning the logic of how to have that conversation with people. And, great to see how, some people obviously rejected it out of hand, but some people kind of came around and learned from it. And that's, to me, always the point there, right? And then just this morning, my middle child and I had a conversation about income inequality and the impact that it has on the world. Now, this kid struggles with not wanting to be seen as left or right wing, sort of has trouble with that, heavy bias identity and in politics. And we have a lot of conversations about how, human rights shouldn't fit into those categories, right? Everyone should care about human rights. And, we do have conversations where they don't always agree with me because I'm really, a hardcore socialist at heart. So not quite in the same place, but in the end, he cares deeply about people and he cares deeply about injustice. And those are the values that, I hoped to impart, and I'm glad to see, that they're meaningful to him. But, these conversations are pretty typical in the lives of, my children and mine and my partners. And I don't know if that's revolutionary or if everyone does this, but making space for conversation and even dissenting opinions is important. And, you mentioned, BCEdAccess Society, and it's the same. This is exactly what we do all day, every day in our private Facebook community, is having conversations and coming to understanding and learning, facts and information that can take us further in our advocacy, but also making space for, different opinions and coming together.
Thank you. I know that BCEdAccess does, you're downplaying a little bit, but that you do some amazing things for all of the communities within BC, and are and in part why I wanted to ask you to be part of the interview series is for the community building that you do through your society and the barriers that you are breaking and working through. And like you said, that education piece and the understanding of and holding space for those different experiences. And I think that is just, it's very revolutionary. And as you say, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be something that's revolutionary, but right now in the time that we are in, it is.
Yeah, so, we have, over 3,500 members in that group now. And you can't have that many people in a group from all over British Columbia and have them all agree on everything. That's just not realistic, right? But we all share kind of a common thread that our children face barriers to access. And, that's where we can focus. And like you say, that community building and that collaborative nature of everything is all about listening more than it is about, talking, even though I do talk a lot. It really is more about listening to other people and learning from them, which is what I've done from the beginning of setting up the group.
Well, and even just my experience of you when we started Mai'a and how you came alongside me and offered your support to help us kind of find our way in the beginning, that to me is also an act of revolutionary mothering. So you are a prime example, Tracy, of a revolutionary motherer.
No, I'm glad. Feels like a big label, but I'm glad. It is certainly what I would aspire to be.
So then our last question, what advice do you have for those wanting to be allies and dismantlers of racism? What advice can you leave us with from your personal experience?
Well, I think that the best advice I have is to listen and learn from Indigenous, Black, and other people of color. Don't speak over those folks. Amplify and share their wisdom because they have the lived experience, and a big thing that I did a few years ago that really changed how I perceived a lot of issues that don't directly impact me as a white woman was to follow lots of Indigenous people, lots of Black people, lots of disabled people, lots of Indigenous disabled people, lots of Black disabled people, lots of, other people of color who were kind of in the same sphere and also outside of it, of my own advocacy work, really deepened my understanding of things and continues to deepen my understanding of things. And in some ways, shows me things that I'll never directly experience. And so I wouldn't learn about them any other way, right? As a mom, of course, I'm trying to teach my own kids to do the same thing, right? To diversify their feed, I guess is the term. But I like it's not just about finding, I'm going to follow Muhammad Ali's Facebook feed because someone's going to post something inspirational there, every now and then. It's about finding the people that resonate with your interests, right? So my son follows a lot of sports people because he's passionate about sports, right? And I've had him look and, seek out the people who are, interesting in speaking about sport, who, aren't white, male, and it helps him, right? It's like just this, immersing yourself into a different space. And it's the same with BCEdAccess. We have a big focus right now on kind of setting some foundational stuff. We've been kind of running along without anything on paper, without anything really structured and organized, and we're trying to structure ourselves a little bit more. But, as we build that foundation, the anti-oppression framework and the anti-racist framework, we're trying really hard to make sure that's embedded in things. And, I, as a white woman in a leadership position, I feel like it's got to be my goal, and it's got to be everyone's goal who is a white person in leadership to, build a path to get out of the way. And, so that is kind of my own ultimate goal with BCEdAccess is, get that foundation, bring in more disabled voices, because that's important. Bring in more Indigenous voices, Black voices, voices from, this South Asian community, et cetera, right? Like there's so many different experiences that people have. And right now, because we started on Facebook, I feel like a lot of them aren't represented. And that's just the nature of who accesses this. And so we're trying to broaden our community.
That's great. Thank you, Tracy. What I'm hearing all throughout is listen, learn, expand your perspective.
And get out of the way.
And get out of the way. Love it. And that, that seems to be a thread all throughout for you with how you parent and just with how you lead BCEdAccess and how you conduct yourself just personally as a person with interactions with people.
Yeah, obviously I make mistakes all the time, I was on a panel, I can't remember, probably 2 months ago, and I looked and I realized that everyone on it was white. And I was like, oh, I should have probably asked about that, right? Like it's all these learnings where I'm still trying to do better and I still make mistakes.
Well, that is the saying, isn't it? Know better, do better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all a process. It's all a journey. No one arrives really on the other side of this. It's lots to undo and unlearn, and we just do our best. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me, and thank you for doing the work you're doing. You're filling a gap that obviously existed, and it's it's really resonating with mothers, with all the mothers that I know. So thank you.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Well, for those who are watching, if you want to find out more about all of the great work that that Tracy and her teammates are doing with BCEdAccess, please head to their website at BCEdAccess.com. So again, thank you so much, Tracy, for all of the revolutionary mothering you do and all of the spaces that you exist. The world definitely needs these radical acts of love. So have a great day.
You too. Thanks.